everyone, and welcome to the debrief on ABC News Live. I'm Kimberly Brooks. Thanks so much for joining us. We're checking in on those deadly storms that are sweeping across the country. Plus, more candidates. We're checking in on the very crowded 2020 race, and no one believed that he could do it, but he did. Tiger Woods is a master. But first, here are your headlines.
A mess in the New York City suburbs. A small plane crashed into power lines on Long Island.
As they came around, they ran out of fuel. The wires prevented the plane from actually striking the ground. It hung it up about 1 foot from hitting the ground.
The only injury, a sprained finger on one of the passengers.
The suspect in fires at 3 historically black churches in Louisiana due in court for a bond hearing today. The fires were all set over the course of 10 days. Holden Matthews faces 3 arson charges.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says she's facing an increased number of death threats after President Trump tweeted a video that appears to show her being dismissive of the 9/11 attacks.
In a statement, Omar says, quote, violent rhetoric and all forms of hate speech have no place in our society, much less from our country's commander-in-chief. Now, this morning, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is stepping up security for the Congresswoman and urging the president to take down this video, which she calls dangerous and disrespectful.
Prosecutors in Germany have now charged former Volkswagen CEO Martin Winterkorn with fraud. He led the company when it rigged diesel vehicles to cheat on emissions tests.
All right, guys, I want to start with the weather because the spring weather is quite unpredictable. Powerful storms swept across the South this weekend with tornadoes and flooding that left 8 people dead. So I want to bring in Marcus Moore in Alto, Texas. Marcus?
Well, Kimberly, good morning. This is a look at some of the damage we've seen here in Cherokee County, Texas. These powerful winds you see here tearing down the wall at this apartment building here. There were 3 people inside when this happened, and they managed to crawl out the front door. And they were unhurt, and they're thankful to be alive this morning. And this is a scene that we have seen repeated across this region. We're in Northeast Texas, in the community of Alto, Texas, which is an area that actually saw 2 tornadoes about an hour apart. And that was something we heard from people who were here at the time, that when the first tornado came through around noon on Saturday, they thought things were done. Little did they know at that time that there would be another more powerful tornado that would come through and cause this damage, and also claim at least 1 life here in Cherokee County. And we know that 2 children in a nearby community south of here, closer to Lufkin, 2 children passed away when a tree fell onto their family's car. Just a terrible thing. They were 8 and 3 years old, and their parents survived. But certainly, this is an example of how dangerous these storms can be, and how dangerous this storm has been. Not only causing destruction, widespread destruction here in Texas, but also creating severe weather to the east in Louisiana, and also Mississippi, where 2 more people sadly passed away as a result of this storm. And we've seen pictures of flash flooding in Mississippi, where people had to be rescued after their SUV ended up in a ditch, and they called 911 for help. And you can hear the fear and the panic as they were making that call. Thankfully, those 2 people who were rescued are okay. And this storm system has continued to march its way and charge its way up to the northeast, as you know, prompting severe weather warnings and also tornado warnings in the northeast, in the Philadelphia area, and in Manhattan, an area also seeing severe weather earlier today. So this storm system has been massive. It has also had a huge impact for millions of people across this region and the country. And back here in Texas, they are just beginning the process of trying to clean up. They're going to be tearing down this apartment building you see behind me here as they try to recover from this devastating storm. Kimberly, just an incredible scene out here, and heartbreaking as well, but so many people are thankful that they are safe.
Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking, and we're hoping everyone is okay. The weather also disturbed a pretty iconic event, the Boston Marathon, where there were delays in the start time. So it's affecting places all over the country. So I think it's important that we have a national forecast from Ginger Z. Ginger?
Kimberly, thank you. What a weekend of severe storms, and I want to share with you what's happened already this morning. 500,000 people come to watch the Boston Marathon. Fortunately, a lot of them were not out, but they were told to shelter in place in the time of the lightning, the really gusty winds that you're seeing in these images, and the pouring rain. 30,000 runners. This is all kind of cleared out, and now we'll just see kind of showery and kind of an ugly day with some wind. Gusts could see up to 55 miles per hour, by the way, with wind advisories from Massachusetts down to South Carolina. This is behind the line that did this, though. Remember, severe storms came through not just in Boston and parts of New York, but North Carolina. Look at the severe damage that you had from likely straight line winds there. But watch the low as it pulls away. This is why we were going to just keep emphasizing the threat is different. It's just more widespread wind, and it's really all the way through the afternoon and tonight. Also going to be quite a bit colder because we did have some snow, which we'll talk about in a moment, but we also had the severe storms as far north as Ohio. Look at the tornado captured there. That is Shelby, Ohio. Now we've got another severe weather outbreak possible, or at least the threat for severe storms on Wednesday. So the next violent storm attack would come southeastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, down to Dallas, even close to San Antonio. This is all with the next one. Remember, you get large hail, you get strong winds, but definitely have a possibility of even an isolated tornado. And some of the wind damage could happen as far north as Iowa, down to the Mexican border. So I promised you images of snow, not that you necessarily wanted to see it, but this is Lake County, Illinois. Chicago actually had 5.3 inches, the most they've had this late in the season since 1961, up to 8.3 inches in the suburbs of Chicago. So a serious Game of Thrones Sunday for them because winter had again arrived. And speaking of snow, a little bit more for the Rockies, and I know that's just the place that spring skiing is in full effect. A lot of folks are super happy, so we wanted to leave you with a little positive look at the snow and the jumps they're doing. I haven't done a spring ski in a long time, but this looks like it's very inspiring. Kimberly?
All right, Ginger, and you have to remember we're halfway through April, so hope the warm weather is coming soon. All right, guys, now on to Washington. The White House is saying that busing migrants to sanctuary cities is a real option. So I want to take a look at Sarah Sanders on ABC's This Week.
Look, this is an option on the table. I mean, we've talked about a number of different things over the last 2 years that we'd love to see happen. Certainly, this wouldn't be our first choice because ideally we wouldn't be dealing with the massive influx of illegal immigrants coming across the border. The crisis that we have, both from a national security and humanitarian standpoint, is if Democrats would step up and help the president fix the laws, this all could go away. We wouldn't be having this discussion, and that would be the best thing for the country, and that would certainly be the best way to solve this crisis and fix this problem. And we don't want to put all of the burden on one or two border communities, and Democrats have stated time and time again they support open borders, they support sanctuary cities, so let's spread out some of that burden and let's put it in some of those other locations if that's what they want to see happen and are refusing to actually help fix the problem.
All right, I want to bring in Karen Travers, who's at the White House. Karen, what's the deal on this? Is this something that's actually possible?
Well, I think it's interesting to see the White House now, Kimberly, almost scramble to fill in the pieces after they had told us late last week that this was a proposal that was floated and rejected. That's where things stood on Friday. And then the president started talking about it and tweeting about it. So now it's back on the table. So last week, not on the table. The president says it is. And now the White House says it is, but that it's not their first choice as a game plan here. You heard Sarah Sanders say that they would look at other options, but they're pushing Congress to step in now and come up with a comprehensive immigration overhaul. I mean, we've seen Congress try and do that, and it really hasn't gone anywhere. It's a tricky, very complicated issue, and right now, the political climate here in Washington is just so partisan. It's hard to see how both sides could come together and do something that the president could sign on to that could also actually pass in a House controlled by the Democrats. So right now, the president, I think you'll see him keep talking about this, but actually doing this, there's no plan to implement this right now. And we should note that Homeland Security officials twice rejected this because they say it would be difficult to do, it would be very costly, and then the question of where does that money come from?
Yeah, and I think another question that we have to ask is it legal? I mean, this is something that President Trump was against before, cutting funding to sanctuary cities. So is this something that is actually legal?
The president says he has the absolute right to do this, and he can say that, but the question is, how do you pay for this migration? You're talking about taking migrants and busing them or moving them hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from where they came across the border, where they're being detained or held. And that would be very difficult. It's not a smooth migration there. So who pays for it? And if the administration is looking to shift funding for something that Congress has already approved and put it to this, you can be assured that Congress is going to jump in on this and say, not so fast. I mean, it's the same argument we saw with building the border wall. The president wants to do it. He says he's going to take money approved for X and put it to Y. That's not how it works on Capitol Hill. So I think the questions of legality come really about where that funding would be and can the president take money and do that.
And I'm just curious, what are Republicans saying about this potential plan?
We heard Lindsey Graham over the weekend say that he would start the process of an immigration overhaul, and that when Congress comes back after their recess, they would get down to business on this. But, I mean, this is an elusive thing here in Washington. Congress has tried to do this before. They've tried to do it in the previous administration, and they haven't been able to get anywhere. I think Democrats will say, you know, what was the White House doing over the last 2 years when the president had both the House and Senate? It would have been hard then. It's going to be even more difficult now.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. We appreciate the updates. All right, guys, if Trump is doing anything, he is inspiring a lot of folks to run and take his place. So more candidate announcements over the weekend, if you can even keep up. The Democratic race is officially crowded. So I want to go to Mary Alice Parks in our D.C. bureau to break it all down. Mary Alice, some new contenders that jumped in over the weekend, right? Mayor Pete, Eric Swalwell. Tell us about them.
Yeah, from coast to coast and smack dab in the middle of the country, we had 3 hometown rallies this last weekend alone. Congressman Eric Swalwell, as you mentioned, getting in the race. He had a big kickoff rally in his hometown in California. The 38-year-old congressman says that he's going to center his race on the issue of gun control. He talks about his little kids and his experience as a freshman congressman when the Sandy Hook massacre took place. He describes a real deep frustration with his colleagues over the issue. And it will be interesting to see if he gains traction on that focal issue for him. And then zooming over to the heartland, you had Mayor Pete, the 37-year-old mayor, officially kicking off his campaign. He's obviously been in the headlines a lot lately. He had his presidential exploratory committee the last few months, but now he's a candidate. They're formal in South Bend, where he was that young, impressive mayor, and now he's hoping to be a very young, impressive candidate. And last, over in Newark, Cory Booker also had his first major rally in his hometown. Cory Booker is hoping to be able to showcase Newark and the revitalization that has taken place there as he makes his bid for the White House.
All right, so there's a lot of people. So what I wonder...
Can you keep track?
I can't keep track. So what I'm trying to understand is if there's any front runners, because there's so many.
So many, 18 now officially, and we expect more to announce in the coming weeks. You know, this question of a front runner is hard. We have so long to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But a few data points stick out. Senator Bernie Sanders tends to be at the top of the polls, along with Joe Biden, but obviously the former vice president has not yet formally announced a campaign yet. Bernie Sanders also seems to have raised the most money in the first quarter, and that's significant because it shows a grassroots enthusiasm that he still enjoys. $18 million in the first 3 months of this year. That is just a whopping figure. So by some of those data points, you could say that the independent senator might be the front of the pack. But like I said, it is so early. Who knows? I expect that those numbers will change a million times between now and the summer.
All right, so I guess, you know, we have a while to go, but what is actually happening today?
Right. Well, speaking of Bernie Sanders, today is tax day, and the senator has taken some flack for the fact that he has not released tax returns. A lot of his Democratic colleagues have done that. They continue to try to challenge President Trump to do the same. But Bernie Sanders so far has not released tax returns. He has promised to do so by the end of the day today. It's also noteworthy that tonight he has a town hall on Fox News. A lot of Democrats don't exactly enjoy going on Fox News, but Senator Bernie Sanders says that he's making a point of trying to speak to all Americans. I expect some headlines out of that town hall.
All right, Mary Alice Parks, thanks for breaking it down, trying to keep up. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, guys, as I mentioned, no one thought he was going to do this, but he did. Tiger Woods is a champion again after winning his 5th Masters tournament in Augusta yesterday. Some are calling this one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. It's been 14 years since his last Masters win, and fans were just as excited. Take a listen.
Many doubted we'd ever see it, but here it is. The return to glory.
All right, you heard it there. And now we want to bring in ESPN's Andy North, who was in Augusta yesterday. Andy, you have to let us know, what was that moment like?
Well, it was, from a historical standpoint, it was amazing that Tiger is able to play as he's been able to play over the last 18 months or so and come back from all his issues. And the quality of play, it was fantastic. What he did on the second 9 yesterday was showed some real maturity and experience. But I thought the most amazing part of the whole thing was walking off the green, seeing his family, hugging his kids, the 22 years from him being the son to now him getting a chance to hug his son. And then the next 5 minutes. The next 5 minutes, I've never heard anything like it at a major championship before. The patrons, the cheering, the chants. I've never heard chants at Augusta National before. And it was the Tiger, Tiger, Tiger for about 5 minutes. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that image of him with his father and then the image of him with his kids, lots of people making reactions to that. So I want to ask you, we know after round 1, he was in 11th place. So how in the world did he make his way back to the top?
Well, I think, you know, the biggest thing for Tiger, and he's talked about it over the years, is that you just want to play solid the first day. If you can play great and get a lead or something, that's great, but you don't want to put yourself in position that you really don't have a chance. His first 3 times he won the Masters, he shot 70 the first round, so that was sort of a good omen, and he played really solid golf all week long. The first day he probably didn't take advantage of how he played as well as the next 3 days, but he was solid all week long. He was in control emotionally, and I thought the maturity and the experience that he showed, particularly on Sunday, was important and had a lot to do with him winning.
Yeah, I want to talk about his mental preparation because we know that he's had a lot of professional and personal issues that he's dealt with since his last Masters win, his well-publicized extramarital affairs, the DUI arrest. So how does one mentally prepare for something this grand?
Well, I think that, you know, once he got healthy again, you know, through that process, his back wasn't working. He didn't know if he was ever going to have a chance to even compete and play golf again. And once he figured out that, yes, I can actually swing a golf club again, and then the process he went through last year, slowly working his way back, getting to where he got himself in contention, and then competing on the back nines of major championships last year, and then finally winning at East Lake, the last tournament of the year. I think, you know, he worked his way through the process, got himself in a position that he knew his body was going to work. Now it was just about playing golf again, and I think all that had a lot to do with him getting to the point he was this week.
And you said, you know, for him to win, he was playing very calm, with maturity. Now it seems like he only is second to Jack Nicklaus. So what are the chances of him actually surpassing Jack?
Well, you know, there was a time that we thought that getting to 18 was a very realistic number, and then obviously with the injuries and everything else, that sort of went away. But to get the 15th, I think was a real special number for him. Can he get number 16? I don't know. 3 is a long way to go, but yet, you know, he's got an opportunity probably to play at a high level in the next 20 majors. If he can continue playing as he has the last year, I think there's a chance. It's an outside chance, but I think there's a good reason that he's got a chance to maybe win another one this year. I know that's a big ask, but he's playing 3 golf courses, 2 of which he's won on before. The third one, they haven't played a major championship in years on, and I think that always gives an advantage to the better players. So there's chance. It's slim, but let's enjoy 15. It was a pretty amazing week.
Yeah, and I like the slim chances because no one thought he could do this, and he did. So it's really incredible. All right, Andy North from ESPN, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your time in Augusta.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, and another congratulations to Tiger. And if you guys want to stick around for Saturday on ESPN, there's going to be the welterweight world title that's live on pay-per-view this Saturday, April 20th, so check that out. All right, guys, where are all of the Game of Thrones fans? Big night last night, right? So Will Reeve is always finding the best parties, and this was no exception. So I want to go to Will. What's happening where you are?
Kimberly, it was a night of reunions and revelations. I won't go into too many spoilers here. That would be cruel, but cruelty is kind of the name of the game in Game of Thrones. One moment with Jon Snow and his friend Sam was about as cruel as it gets, but it was unavoidable. When you watch the show, you'll see what I mean. I watched the show here in Chicago, where winter came, almost 5 inches of snow here on Sunday, the night of the premiere, which was fitting for a show that has advertised winter as coming for so long. Winter finally here, so I went and joined some diehard fans in costume at a local bar that was all decked out to the nines with dragons and the Iron Throne. It was really quite a time, and it's really become a cultural phenomenon, Game of Thrones has, as this show comes to its conclusion. There's really not much left, but still a lot of questions to be answered. We got some answers last night setting up the season. The fans that I was watching with were really fired up. They said the episode gave them what they wanted after nearly an 18-month wait between season 7 and season 8. This premiere, we don't have the numbers yet, but expected to be huge. One of the biggest events in TV history. This whole season is a celebration of a show that has really become a cultural phenomenon, Kimberly.
All right, Will, and for all of the folks who don't watch Game of Thrones like me, I was really feeling this Chrissy Teigen tweet. She says, I honestly thought it was the last episode ever or something. I've never seen humans so collectively excited. I am happy for you. I really am. Excited to find my Game of Thrones one day. Yeah, one day I'll find it. All right, guys, and before we go, let's talk about all of the Coachella buzz over the weekend. You had Idris Elba apparently DJing the best set of his entire life. Ariana Grande, she brought out NSYNC, and people were trying to see if Ariana or Beyonce was better when they performed. I don't even know why people are having that debate, but I want to go to Gabe Blenner from Radio Disney because he was at Coachella this weekend checking out an art installation of musical plants. So check it out. Gabe?
How's it going?
Hey, I'm Joe. Nice to meet you.
I'm Gabe. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Gabe.
So you created this installation. What do we have going on here?
Yeah, we have a quartet of plants actually playing music.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can see we have a few cactuses here, and each one of them is hooked up to this MIDI sprout. And what this device does is it translates plant biorhythms into messages that can control synthesizers. And then I design sounds for the plants to play. So each plant is playing a different instrument. It's creating this beautiful symphony.
How do you go about starting to even think about this? This is crazy.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because, you know, some people, they're really good at guitar, and when they play guitar, it's almost like the universe is speaking through them. I've never been that good at guitar, so for me, I wanted to connect directly to the universe through nature, and that's why I started doing this kind of music.
You know, when people come up here who are at the hotel and experience this for the first time, what feeling do you want them to have when they're chilling here?
I just want people to feel connected and to feel relaxed, feel that connection with nature, feel how the music is not only being generated by the plants, but it's also being generated by the plants responding to you by entering the space. These are living beings, and we're all in this together.
What's that process like when you first start thinking about this to hook this whole thing together?
I like to look at the data that I'm getting from the plants, and I like to think about, you know, if a plant is really active, you know, maybe that's like the lead.
Yeah.
And then if a plant is a little less active, maybe it's only going to play a few notes, so they're playing the bass. And then I design the sounds specifically for the data I'm getting from the plants, and then I just want to make it so it's really harmonious.
What plant sound personally are you drawn to the most of all these plants?
I like this one. Oh wait, this one right here.
Okay,
this little guy. Yeah, it has like a really like staccato kind of little sprinkly kind of sound to it.
I want to make sure I get the full effect.
It's this right here.
Oh, it's this one over here. I'm on the wrong one. Oh, that's awesome. It does. It just plays into the whole, you know, characteristics of the hotel as well. You can just relax. You have the pool. You have the sounds and the plants. Very cool.
Totally.
I love it.
Full vibe.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, so nice to meet you.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Only in California. I love it. All right, my friends, continue to take care of yourselves. It's Monday. It's the beginning of the week. And if you're around, you can stick around for the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. And you can check us out for World News Prime at 8 p.m. And if you want to stay updated on all of these headlines, you can go to abcnews.com or download the app. I'm Kimberly Brooks, and I'll see you tomorrow.